Hello, Jacob here. And the official NHL schedule for 2021-2022 has been released. So let's go ahead and break down the Minnesota Wild's 2021-2022 schedule. So yeah, it's a very interesting schedule, kind of taking it over and looking at it. There's a lot of interesting things here that I'll be sure to mention as we go along, especially with the tail end of the year being pretty home heavy, all things considered, which is nice. I mean, I'm one of those fans who would much rather have all of their home games at the end of the season, especially when it all means something. But anyway, we'll get into that later. So let's go ahead and break down the preseason schedule. So yeah, the Wild will have 6 preseason games this year, and the first one will be in St. Louis on September 25th, before going to Colorado on September 30th. And then on October 4th, we host Colorado. On October 6th, we host St. Louis. And then on October 7th, we host Chicago, before going to Chicago on October 9th to round out our preseason schedule. So yeah, I mean, it'll be kind of interesting to see all the battles and how the lines shake up and, all that stuff too. So definitely be something to look forward to. And then on to October 21 schedule. So our first regular season game is in Anaheim, and then on the 15th, and then on the 16th, we go to LA. So the first 2 games of the year are West Coast games, before coming home and hosting Winnipeg on the 19th, and then hosting Anaheim on the 23rd, and hosting Nashville on the 24th, before going to Vancouver on the 26th, and then pretty early on this year, we get to go face the Seattle Kraken for the first time in Seattle. So on October 28th, that'll be interesting to watch. And then on October 30th, we head to Colorado to round out the first, month of the season, for lack of a better term there. And yeah, I mean, so far, from all the games that I've looked at here, it'll be interesting because really outside of Winnipeg, Nashville, and Vancouver, well, obviously, and Seattle, but, we played Anaheim, LA, and Colorado last year. Like I say, though, in different divisions and all that stuff, but now that we're back in the Central, so, yeah, I mean, overall, it looks like October is a pretty nice month to kind of ease into. And then November comes, and it's a pretty busy month. November's pretty busy. And our first game of November is at home on November 2nd against Ottawa. And then on November 6th, we go to Pittsburgh. And then on November 7th, we host the New York Islanders. Then November 10th, we go to Arizona. And then on November 11th, we're in Vegas. And then on the 13th, we're back in Seattle again. So a little 3-game West Coast series yet again, pretty much the first full week of November, before coming back home on the 16th to host San Jose and then host Dallas on the 18th of November. And then we go to Florida on the 20th, and then on back-to-back days, so the 20th in Florida, and on 21st we're in Tampa Bay against the defending Stanley Cup champion Lightning. So that's not going to be an easy game by any means. Before November 24th, I believe this will be the day before Thanksgiving, at least here in America, we go to New Jersey to take on the Devils, and then the day after Thanksgiving, on the 26th, we host Winnipeg, before hosting Tampa Bay on the 28th, and then hosting Arizona on the 30th. So yeah, November, that's where it gets a little juicier, especially because I'll be curious to see what the Islanders look like at this point, because there's rumors that, Parise and Suter or at least one of the two may end up in New York by the end of this off season. So, be interesting to see if that actually develops or not. But again, there's been rumors about this going on for the last couple of seasons, because I know that the Islanders have had some interest in the past, but due to some either contract or money or something there, it just never happened. So, and then of course, taking on the Stanley Cup champion Lightning, that's never an easy game at all either. So, who knows? And then we go on to December. And on the 2nd, we host New Jersey. And then on the 4th, we host Toronto. In a lighter, pretty busy month, but not like a wham bam thank you ma'am sort of month. At least comparatively speaking, you'll see what I mean here in a few minutes. But so yeah, like I said, we host both New Jersey and Toronto on December 2nd and 4th, respectively, before going to Edmonton on December 7th, going to San Jose on the 9th, and going to LA on the 11th, and then to Vegas on the 12th for yet another mini West Coast road swing. But thankfully, like I say, with us playing most of the West Coast teams last year, at least in the States, that shouldn't be much of an issue. Before coming back home on the 14th to host Carolina, hosting Buffalo on the 16th, and hosting Florida on the 18th, before going to Dallas on the 20th, and then our last game before Christmas is at home against Detroit, before the last game of the 2021 calendar year up in Winnipeg. So, yeah. December, it looks a little bit lighter, quote-unquote, but Vegas, Edmonton always gives us fits. Connor McDavid, just saying. Going to LA again, Florida, which was a playoff team. You really can't rule out anyone here, so. But yeah, so all in all, kind of a lightish month. If the Wild take care of the business, we should beat most of them, but who knows? So, and then the 2022 calendar year kicks off on New Year's Day. January 1st is the Winter Classic against St. Louis. And yeah, be interesting to see what the Wild do for uniforms and stuff like that too. So, the Winter Classic, we're supposed to do this a couple years ago, but then COVID happened. So, that pretty much, kind of kibosh that whole plan. So, hopefully this year we'll actually have the Winter Classic game. And then, yeah, this one is a particularly road-heavy month. Or heavier road month, I should say. Because then after St. Louis, we go to Ottawa on the 3rd. We go to Boston on the 6th. Before coming home against Washington on the 8th. And then, literally, right away again, we go to Winnipeg on the 10th. And then back to Edmonton on the 12th. Before hosting Anaheim on the 14th. Then we go to Colorado on the 17th. Then we do an interesting thing here where on the 21st and 22nd we play Chicago, but in a home and road series. So our first game is in Chicago on the 21st before we come back to Minnesota to take on Chicago at home. So I've seen the MLB do this a couple times, especially with the Wild and the Brewers. I don't know if it's the same as it was, but I know in the past they've done a road and home series where it's 2 games there and then 2 games in Minnesota. So it's kind of interesting that they're doing that against Chicago, a home and road game series. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works. And then we host the Montreal Canadiens on the 24th, and then the 28th we go to New York to take on the Rangers, and then on the 30th we take on the New York Islanders again. So, and that wraps up our January, where, again, we got some heavy hitters. Obviously St. Louis, division, conference rivals. We go to Ottawa, which, they'll be an interesting team to see. And then Boston, which, well, it's Boston. They're usually a pretty tough, competitive team. And then Washington, the Capitals. Granted, they I mean, it'll be interesting to see here because, I mean, I expect OV to be back, but who knows? I mean, and all that stuff. And then we go, to Winnipeg and Edmonton, and then, yeah, I mean, like I say, overall, it's going to be another pretty interesting month, but again, a month I feel like we can do pretty well in. So, and then the weirdest and most interesting month of them all, February of 2022, we have literally 3 games the entire month, and they're all on the road. Starting with the Chicago Blackhawks on February 2nd in Chicago. And then it looks like the All-Star game is on the 5th, so that following Saturday in Las Vegas before a 2-week Olympic break. So the NHL did implement the 2-week Olympic break, so it'll be interesting to see Team USA, Team Canada, Team, World, like Finland, Sweden, Russia, those type of countries too. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of nice that they do have that Olympic break in there for a couple weeks. Just so that way they can actually experience playing abroad and all that stuff too. So, yeah. And then we come out of that break going to Toronto on the 24th. And then our last game of the month is in Calgary on the 26th. So, yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting. Basically almost having an entire month off. That'll be, whoo, boy. And then it gets juicy. Because March is a very, very home-heavy month with some decent firepower. So, let's go ahead and get into it. So, the first game is on March 1st, and we host Calgary. Then we go to Philadelphia on the 3rd, and then to Buffalo on the 4th, before coming back home to host Dallas on the 6th and the Rangers on the 8th. And then we do another back-to-back road series on the 10th, going to Detroit, and then we go to Columbus on the 11th. And then we come back home on the 13th to host Nashville, and then Boston on the 16th, Chicago on the 19th, the 21st will be Vegas, the 24th will be Vancouver, the 26th, Columbus, the 27th, Colorado, the 29th, Philadelphia, and the 31st, Pittsburgh. So yeah, this month is going to be a really juicy month because this is going to be the start of a playoff push and all that stuff. And like I say, when you have pretty much mostly all home games, well, that's going to be very, very, very important to win a lot of them. I mean, in fact, we have 12 home games in March, which I think is the most we have here. And then April rolls around, and again, this is more of an even month, so April is going to be huge. Well, obviously, March and April are the last 2 months going into the playoffs, so let's see here. So our first game in April is on the 2nd in Carolina, and then we go to Washington on the 3rd, before actually going to Nashville on the 5th, and then St. Louis on the 8th, before coming home to host LA on the 9th, and then on the 11th we host Edmonton, before going to Dallas, and then to St. Louis on the 14th and 16th, respectively, and then on the 17th we host San Jose, then we go to Montreal, then we host Vancouver on the 21st, and then we host Seattle on the 22nd, and then we go to Nashville on the 24th, and then our last 3 games of the regular season are at home. The 26th against Arizona, the 20th against Calgary, and our season finale, or at least regular season finale, is at home against the Colorado Avalanche. Whew, baby. So yeah, needless to say, this is going to be a very interesting schedule because there's a lot of, it's a lot of spread outness. But like I say, the months that are really going to be key for me are obviously, the first month of the year. How do you get out of the gate and all that stuff? And then our first real meat and potatoes month of November. January. December. I mean, And then February, like I say, will be the most interesting of the months, just because we literally have 3 games that entire month. And then in March is probably going to be, like I say, out of all the months, going to be the biggest month, because that's when we have the most home games. And that's where we can really make up ground, push forward, whatever you want to say there. But that's the month where we could really make some noise, with most of our games being at home, which is nice. And then April, the last month of the regular season, what's the team going to look like by then? Are we going to be in the playoff hunt? This, that, and the other thing. So, but yeah, I mean, overall, it'll be interesting to see here what the Wild do with this. Because, again, at the end of the month, or at the end of the day, I should say, we still got a couple months yet. We still got a lot of things coming up, including the draft, free agency, blah, 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 and all that stuff. So, I mean, yeah. It'll be interesting to see here. Like I say, I'll try to make videos as much as I can during the regular season. It's just, especially with, some of our Sunday games, like especially October, November, and December. But especially November, it looks like it'll be kind of difficult, just because, again, with football season. I mean, thankfully we don't have a Sunday game literally every week during the football season, because for me, my number one is always the Vikings and then the Wild. And then it'll be kind of hard to catch, both of them. But like I say, we'll just wait and see what happens here, because welcome back, baby. It's officially regular season time, and it's officially back to normal. Well, at least relatively back to normal. Now that we have a new team and all that stuff in the league too, it'll be interesting to see what Seattle looks like. And, well, yeah. So, before I ramble on too much longer here, stay tuned, because as I said before, the draft is coming up, free agency and all that stuff is coming up. So, yeah, until we meet again, this is Jacob. Have a good night.